Honestly, it'd probably be football.
Okay.
Just for the simple fact I played college. I had a situation with the NFL. So when you Google my name, that is literally the first thing that shows up. All the photos are football, mostly related. So that's kind of the identity.
Okay. And when I say stepping into the city, not Googling,
Mm-hmm.
say I walked the streets and I did this and I may have heard of you,
Mm-hmm.
will Capital Rebirth then be somewhat of the main forefront in this
So
present moment?
it depends, honestly, on what crowd you're talking to. So if you're talking to movers and shakers, Capital Rebirth is definitely going to come up. If you're talking to, just typical day-to-day workers, childhood friends, they're going to remember football. And it's funny you say legacy. So that's the whole idea that I want to create is I don't want to be remembered for football per se. That's kind of you did play football. It's a bonus, but it's like, man, he helped save this kid, or he helped this family, or he gave opportunities and exposures to, whatever the case may be. So that's ultimately what I want my legacy to build off, because the stereotype football player isn't good. It's, a dumb jock. Okay. All they can do is, as the one reporter, just shut up and dribble. It's like, we're more than that. We're intelligent. And I just want people to understand that I graduated from one of the most prestigious universities in America, and you just can't do that playing sports. And a lot of times people get that whole mystique of, oh, you were an athlete, so I'm sure they helped you and they helped you get by and change some grades. Well, at that university that I can speak of, that was not the case. Professors didn't care if you were a star athlete or didn't even know if you were in the class. A lot of people don't understand. Some classes in college, you can get 400 or 500 people in the class. So good luck figuring that out.
And that's amazing. Just giving that backstory on it. You're also speaking on the things that you want to make sure that you're leaving a legacy for yourself and the angle and the narrative that you want to give and put out there. So touching back on Capital Rebirth, then I want to ask you, with that organization and what you're doing with that 501c3 nonprofit, what is fulfilling of it? Like, what's the mentality that you had waking up every day? Like, what fulfills you every day working on Capital Rebirth, just focusing on that?
How can we call it? The adrenaline rush is what I prefer to call it. The adrenaline rush that I get that motivates me to keep me going to do whatever it is that I'm doing, honestly, is to see people smile. I think a lot of times in life, we hit lonely blocks. I know I hit one too. And just simple, hey, how you doing? Conversations. Somebody can, make them smile and change their day. Being able to provide, information to the community that may be vital to them that they can use. Providing, programming and events that they can participate and be a part of, and put a smile on their face. That's the ultimate, motivation for me, is just to make people smile and be happy, because, man, life can stress you out in so many ways.
Nice. Now, I don't know if the viewers or who may see this at the present moment have heard of Friends of Midtown.
Yes.
That's something that I've seen, and I see that you're involved in.
Mm-hmm.
So, jumping from Capital Rebirth, which is your brainchild with your team, something that you came, working with Friends of Midtown, something that people may not know of who they are, what they do. What portion of that fulfills you, working with that organization or other organizations?
I think just the exposure to seeing how other people operate, how their mindset is, how they work through problems, solving things, and just being the whole on a team. I play sports, so that whole team thing comes back. So yes, it's an area in our city that I live in. So of course, I want to be prepared to join or, help anything going on in that area. And then, like I said, it's also, to me, an eye-opener for our community, where we have this mindset sometimes where we don't want to branch out from our own culture. This is particularly a predominantly white section in the city. The board is predominantly white. They don't have the best, representation. They do have some things that they need to work on. And that's why I'm there. So we can complain a lot about different things that breaks down to race and justice, whatever. But until we are actually able to cross over sometimes and show people, hey, I'm not this black deviant person that the media portrays. You know, I'm actually intelligent. I actually can hold a civil conversation. I actually bring value to this table. And hopefully then that allows other, entities or, races to look at us and start to develop a different view. It's like, oh, well, we can't judge everybody because actually, we've gotten to know one. And I may be the first Black person that a lot of these, individuals are working with or, kind of building this friendship relationship with. So, and I went to the University of Virginia, which is predominantly white. So that was, definitely a eye opener for me, especially coming from a predominantly Black culture. It was life changing for me as well.
Nice, nice. And with that, then, and you spoke on a lot of things that are doing that for you. So now, the inner workings of Mikell in this present day, what fulfills you? Is it the things that you just spoke of? What wakes you up every day now as you, though? Like,
oh,
wake up.
So it's back to the second word in the organization, rebirth. That comes down to my daughter. So rebirth kind of came, the capital, of course, is where we're at, Harrisburg. The rebirth stands for respect, intelligence, resilience, truth, and humanity. And that came from the birth of my daughter. So I signed an NFL contract the same day I was told I could never play again. So I went to a major depression, suicidal thoughts, the whole nine. And when I would look back, it would be, I had a teenage job working at Parks and Recs, working with kids. I played sports, so I was naturally a role model. When I was in college, I volunteered at local elementary schools and middle schools to help the kids. So whenever I got a chance to be around kids, I enjoyed it. I had nieces and nephews who, if you look back at, my college games, I had their initials under my eye, their initials on my glove. So kids were very important, and I know that they're the future. So that's where my daughter, Miley, came into the picture. So her birth gave me rebirth and new purpose and new passion for life. And then, like I said, ultimately, having a child, you definitely want to make sure the environment, the culture that she's going to be living in is good. And if you can, put a print in it and have some type of change or just bringing people together to bring that change, of course, I'm going to be willing to do that. Because, at the end of the day, we all want our kids to grow up, be successful, and be safe in this world. So I want to leave the legacy, honestly, for my daughter. This is all, I don't want no credit. I honestly don't. I want my daughter to realize that she has a father that genuinely loves and supports her, and he has built a foundation, that she can stand on, and, this can be left behind for her and, her kids. So, when we talk about this generational change or wealth or whatever you want to call it, this is kind of the ball that I'm trying to start with. Nobody in my family, graduated college. I was the first one. Now, my nieces and nephews, they have dreams and aspirations of going to college, as well as my daughter. Nobody in my family owned a business, a nonprofit, any of that, So just being the first to kind of take these risks and, honestly, it pays homage to a lot of people who helped me along the way to get to the University of Virginia, because like I said, that was the life-changing moment. Like I said, just being around successful people, knowing what that looks like, it definitely changes your outlook and how you view the world and how you want to be involved in the world.
Nice, nice. And that's a great sum up. And it helps me lead into the next wave I want to take you on as far as just thinking with this legacy interview. So you already started going back, so I want to throw back. Now, I seen back in Camp Curtin posted, Camp Curtin YMCA, let me correct that. They posted something stating that you walked away doors or you was a part of their facility back in 1994.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a native of Harrisburg as well. Mikell, from you, sports-wise, just being in the community as younger kids, that's what I remember. I remember your dad being at sporting events, helping anyone. I remember 4th and Emerald.
Mm-hmm.
So those are things I remember. Is there anything mental-wise to speak on the mentality of what helped you come from back in them days of the Camp Curtin 94 days? I don't know if you started before then with the sports, other things of that nature, but mentality-wise, was there something that just sparked you throughout them years to say, damn, I see myself growing, I see certain things? Is it something that you could touch on that will bring us back from your upbringing of it, where you've seen changes?
Honestly, I think it starts with love and accountability from my parents.
Okay.
Although my parents were not together, at any point in my life, I felt the love and support on both ends. So it started right there. So anything that I wanted to, get involved with, basketball, football, track, they were there to support me. They were encouraging me. But then also, I was fortunate enough to have a father, who played basketball as well, who knew the sports, realm of how things work. He basically told me two things: is make sure your grades are okay and you're not getting in trouble with the law. And that was it. And then everything else kind of just fell in line. So it's like, wow, I know personally I want to play in the NBA or the NFL or some professional sport at that age. I want to chase. But then on my dad saying, hey, I don't care if it's the YMCA game on a Saturday. Man, if you messing up in school or, you getting in trouble, you got to sit this one out. And I think any athlete or anybody a part of a team or anything, the most painful thing is watching your teammates or your friends, doing whatever it is, game, whether it's at the house playing the PlayStation game or, in the gym playing the game. I think that burns you. So I never wanted to feel that burn. So that kept me straight, man. And ultimately, people back then, they would tell me I'm good. I didn't let it go to my head. I wasn't one to walk around, like I was better than anybody. But back then, there wasn't social media. So in order for you to be solidified as good, that literally came from word of mouth. And the only way word of mouth comes is if you actually bringing something to the table. Because it ain't like social media. I can just post whatever, you know what I mean, and get some likes, get some people talking. No, like you had to actually come see. People had to come see and be impressed to want to have that conversation with you. So that kind of carried me internal confidence. I never displayed it external. But yeah, man, just knowing that people believed in me and, seeing the actual success. They spoke for itself. I stood out on every team, that I played on. I was pretty much a star player coming up. So that gave me extra motivation. And then, like I said, I knew about all the colleges. I watched all the games. So I was like, man, this is what I want to do. So I have to do certain things in my life that's going to align with this and get me there.
Nice. And that right there leads me into the next thing. So you know how you strive, you persevere, you did all of that. Now you stated it was an internal confidence that you had. But we didn't have all that social media as you mentioned. So let's bring it back to present day. You're pushing a lot of initiatives. You're doing a lot of great things from what we're able to see. And that's just a scene. Mm-hmm. So now it's like, all right, the behind the scenes things, and you don't have to get into detail. I'm really trying to get to where your mentality would be at, right? Mm-hmm. During this process. And the process that I'm speaking on is working on these current initiatives and not speaking on one in particular. I wouldn't want that. Mm-hmm. It's just, how do you every day, like from what you spoke on in the past and having that confidence, having all that, what pushes you to continue doing these initiatives that you want to see driven?
I think one, I was never a quitter. And I was always taught to have a long-term plan. So for me, I have 5, 10, 15-year goals. So, I can't just turn my back on any of these goals. Will some of them change with time over the years? Yes, but ultimately, I'm still going to pursue them. And I'm a big dreamer. So when I say that, when I first had the vision of Capital Rebirth, if a lot of people know, we wanted to attain William Penn and convert that into pretty much a multi-purpose facility with tons of resources in there and activities for kids and adults to occupy time, get certifications, get education. So that was the big thing that I wanted to go after. But ultimately, I knew that I didn't want to use Mikell Simpson as the platform. I wanted to be rebirth, kind of, to the world and respected in a different realm. So ultimately, I knew I had to start to do some of the smaller things to kind of build up the brand, to show what we want to kind of use in this facility so people can say, oh, well, they just came out the blue and they want a facility. They haven't done nothing, no track work. They have no rapport with the community. They're not, an official organization. So that's where you've seen the sporting alumni events come. That's where you've seen the anti-bullying superhero days come. That's where you've seen the voter outreach and registration start. That's where you've seen the Stop the Violence and Drug Abuse Talent Fest. That's where you've seen kids' basketball teams being sponsored by us, whatever the case may be. Like, our thing is we want to provide the solution to any issues, or we want to at least get the conversation going to solve those issues. And ultimately, I think the biggest thing that motivates me is always going to be my daughter. I have someone looking up to me. I have someone depending on me. And ultimately, as a parent, you always want to see your child progress better than you did. So a lot of times, adults, we say, oh, well, I didn't have this as a child, or I didn't have that, or this attention. Well, when you have your child, you make sure that you do everything that you didn't have, or provide for your child. And ultimately, I keep my daughter involved in these conversations, in these decision makings. If I'm talking about a big project that's, potentially millions of dollars, or it's a small community event, she, has a voice in there. I trust her opinion. Ultimately, as an adult, yes, I'm going to have the final say, but I think it's important to have your kid around them, make them feel wanted and appreciate it. And then ultimately, they can start to understand the language. They can understand the steps and process that you're taking. So when they do, become adults, if they want to start their own or take over, they kind of are introduced to it young. I know just growing up for me, a lot of this stuff I'm just learning now.
And that's great. That's great to hear. And me being a new father myself, I commend everything I see from what you've done with your daughter. I've seen it from the time when I came back into the city and all of that, and I was around when you were starting Capital Rebirth, and to see that up into our present day of us just holding conversation, and I see the growth of it. It's like, damn, to know we knew each other from younger days. Now we're older and we see that we each have younger days. To see it, it's like, damn, that's beautiful. So for you to touch on even what your daughter takes away from everything that you're doing, that's amazing. And for you to have that mentality with it and making sure you're instilling those things in her to see it, I want to add somewhat of a double-sided question, because you kind of really already touched on it with your daughter. That was great, even before I was able to pull that out of you, because that's what I wanted to touch on next. And the presence of seeing your daughter at these events and seeing her run around. And it's to the point, sometimes I've seen it where it's like she's kind of organizing it, where you put her in a position to help run and organize things. So I was like, damn. So I wanted to ask, like, what feeling do you receive from seeing what she takes away from it? And then the flip side of that question would be, what feeling do you get seeing how the community is embracing the things that you're bringing and how we're enjoying it, because it's something that's helping us.
Yeah. So the joy that I get seeing my daughter become her own person, I don't think I can describe it. There's no one word, to be honest. I just know that I'm happy, I'm pleased. And whenever someone gives a compliment to her, how well-mannered she is, how well-spoken she is, how helpful she is, like, it almost, in a sense, makes me want to cry. It's also made me become a big feminist. So I support women. I believe without women, America wouldn't be running. I don't think any business would be stable. I don't think any household would be stable. So I don't know, man. It's just seeing her become, the person that she's going to be. And I look at myself at the ages that she's at, and I compare, and it's like night and day. So it only gives me that hope and that belief that no matter how much I accomplish in life, she's going to top it. And that's exactly what I want to see. I want to see my daughter crush any ideas that I have, any plans. And I'm talking about crush them in a positive way. And I think what I get from the community, the response that I see and the feeling is that we're doing something that's actually working. So it doesn't matter who you are, what your plan and idea is. If consumers, the community, the residents isn't responding, nobody's showing up, nobody's supporting, then, all that work is going to wayside. And I don't think none of us want to be in that situation where, we're building things and putting things out there and spending hours and countless amount of money and investing different whatever for no one to have any responses to. And the big thing that we drive with responses is we want to make sure that we have resource vendors at every event that we have so they can actually share the information and get to the residents. So a lot of times in our community, we won't even know a resource is being offered right in our backyard. But you'll see people on social networks and different platforms complaining, oh, we need this, we need that. Well, some of this stuff is actually already existing, but for some reason, it's not coming across them. The information is not getting to them, so they miss it. So when you show up to, example, a Stop the Violence and Drug Abuse Talent Fest, you're going to be connected with resources and people who can actually help you in those fields instead of saying, oh, I showed up to an event, that was a cause, great performance, great talent, I enjoyed myself, but I have no direction. I have no connections. I got to go back and Google some things, or I don't know what else exists in it. So when you come, you can get connected on site with those things. So that excites me. And when these resource vendors, when they show up and they follow up with us, hey, we connected with 10 people who came out to your event, or, we connected with just one. To me, that is the whole point of the events. It's not, to put it on for attention. It's not to get pats on the backs and, oh, look at him doing that, or look at this organization. No, it's for the people, and it will always be for the people. Like I said, without the people, Capital Rebirth don't exist. And I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing it for the people. So it's always a joy to see people respond in a positive way.
And that right there sums up the bulk of the interview. The last thing I just wanted to ask, what does legacy mean to you?
Legacy to me, it means what are you as a father? So to me, I don't care about any accolades, any awards that I get. If my daughter cannot come home or look me in my face and say, Dad, I love you, I'm proud of you, I'm happy that you invest time in me, money, I'm happy that you bring me around, whoever. As long as my daughter is happy, I think that's the legacy that I want to live. Because when you think about legacy, and I'll use LeBron James as an example. We all can say he had a great career. There's some who say he's not. Some say he does good things off the court. Some say he doesn't. So you're going to have a good opinion, a bad opinion, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. But ultimately, it's up to my kids to determine what my legacy is. And she has my last name, and this was built for her. So as long as she is satisfied with who I am as a parent,